because I could feel internally that there was just less of a filter that I didn't know was there before. And just like, yeah, this might ruffle a lot of feathers, but it is what it is. I can't be otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised that filter of kindness, because you're such a kind person, and I know, I'm sure it's just sort of your nature, and I'm sure it was also part of the conditioning, and it's can be in the most refined ways, it can be hard to see what's what, and then all of a sudden you just sort of ah
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
Beautiful. That's
That
exactly what happened.
yeah,
Because it was part of this character for so long. And you're right, it's so intertwined. Like what's genuine and what's not, it's so hard to tell. And then yeah, it all has to kind of just come out, and sometimes it's messy. And then you see like when someone's in front of me, I still care and it feels very natural. Um, but it needed to kind of fall apart in the way that it did.
yeah, I have that experience too. People don't know what the fuck to make of me. It's just because I will just, you know, I can be like the nicest person, and then I can go all ex-con on somebody, and just like that, It's just
That makes
like,
sense to me. Yeah.
and I like the whole range of it. You know, I enjoy being able to be as tender as I feel like being, and I enjoy just saying, "What the fuck are you talking about?" What is that?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Exactly.
and maybe it won't be like that way forever. I don't know, but it's just sort of like that's
Yeah.
fucking crazy. And I can see that the trap is just. I always cared whether people thought I was crazy or mean or whatever. Now, there's still a little bit of that, but not very fucking much.
Mm.
Just like, you know, I can
Yeah.
feel there's still some tendrils to it, but it's just like, yeah, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Almost universally, I find that if somebody gets filtered out, I don't regret it. It's good riddance. I would say universally, just like, good, okay. Another one bites the dust.
I like that. Yeah.
It's a filter. There's something about being older. It's just like, do I want to die being fake? It's like, no, I'm not, I could die at any time. I'm not gonna,
It's not worth it
it's not,
anymore.
it's not.
Um, I do see that with not all older people, but I do see that with time, something does like kind of work itself out like that. Uh, because yeah, you're done with the pretend. It's just too much energy. Like why?
Yeah,
And that sounds more authentic to me, being angry and then being the sweetest ever, because that's what life is like. You don't know what's going to be in front of you, and then the body just responds. But the fakeness of the person is like desperate to be a certain way and be perceived a certain way all the time. It's a prison.
it is. More and more I see people just, it's sort of like like, there's this kind of firewall you have to go through, you know, of seeing how fake you are, seeing how, I mean, a million ways you could describe it, and none of them are really it, but of how much pain is in there, all the things you talk about, all the energies in the body. And people just most of humanity is on this side, and it's like you get close to the heat and they're just, no, not going there,
Hmm.
and they, whatever the coping mechanism, addiction, avoidance, frivolity, distraction, whatever, you name it. And then it's like when you go through it, it's just like it's like, oh my God, what it's, that other side, it's just, I mean, that's what's been nice about being, that talk more about it, but just having Gigi be here. It's like, it's like we went through a lot of that. So we could mostly, we just really enjoy each other, and there's still stuff to clean up and stuff that's a pain in the ass or stuff where I'm an asshole or she's whatever, but it's like once you've been on the other side of that, you don't ever fully forget it, you know.
Yeah.
And even if you get lost in something, you've kind of laid those tracks, you know.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's just it's like nothing else. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe, thank God that I fucked things bad enough up that that had to die, You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's the nice thing when the losing of things become like, yeah, thank fucking God. It's a blessing. Good
yeah,
riddance. Bye.
absolutely. And I don't mean to be glib about it because it's not glib, but it's just like, oh my God, the silliness that you see, in living that way. So, and for me, at least, the exhaustion of it's like even pretending to go back to any version of that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's usually what it is. It's not a conscious choice to really stop doing that. It's the energy itself that depletes in one form or another. That's why all this trying to fix the craziness, it never works. It will never ever work. Because once life blows up or you have a difficult circumstance, all of it will be back and you'll be like surprised that
Yep.
it's still there.
Yeah. All the rats are out from the woodwork and the whole floor is nothing but rats running around.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can still feel the slow fade, just it's sort of, I've said it many times to you, but just sort of not not quite one place, not quite the other, just sort of like a lot of energy. There's, it's not like I'm beyond any of those old energies. They're not cleared. I, I've seen through them to varying degrees, and it's like just that disorientation of, I don't know, being at this stage of decay or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I also think like the further along you get, the less it's about like self-blame or looking at yourself, meaning it's hard to distinguish whether something external has triggered something internal. Like, I don't know, you know? It just conceptually, it doesn't quite make sense.
Mm.
It's just here if it's here, you know? It doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean you have to work through something or that it's bad in any way. There's really no meaning to it
Mm.
because I think maybe mostly on the spiritual path, you could continue the dream by believing that there's constantly some meaning to it and something to look at and something to work through. But at a certain point, and I think you'll naturally feel it, where it's just like it's pointless to try and figure anything out because it actually doesn't make sense. And I actually don't know. No one knows.
Mm. That's probably part of the confusion because I'm sure on some level I'm still trying to do that, to process this or whatever, you know. I feel what I notice, I just feel is like the sort of the detritus, is that the word? The 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 rubble, of the collapse. It just feels like there's a lot of rubble or what's the word? Refuse or remains. It just feels like that's confusing for me sometimes. It's like, wow, this doesn't happen fast for me. It's just like,
So, what are you calling the rubble? Can you describe what's there?
it's not exactly rubble, it's like a haziness, just it's like sort of like this. I can kind of see through my fingers, but it's just this haziness and sort of maybe it's just an idea that there's some clarity. I don't know that, but I'm aware of like I've described to you before, like the placenta around the face. It's just sort of like, "Ah, this fucking thing. I can't see. It's like there's this yucky, slimy thing out. It's sort of like
Does it have anything tied to what you would call tiredness or no?
tiredness. Yeah, that's a good question. Yes.
Um, so just as a description, like I don't know exactly what's going on for people, but I like to describe what it was like at different periods here that seemed kind of strange or different or odd. And I called it hazy days because I couldn't, sometimes the vision was sort of blurry or not clear. The body was a lot slower. It was very slow and tired. Um, it wasn't clear in the way that the person would expect to be clear. So the person has a lot of expectations of what this would be like. But what I think was happening was that it was the body was notching down to a more foundational way of functioning. But in the transition of that, it's a little bit disorienting. It's a little bit like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Nothing is clear. It's all kind of
Yeah,
just, I don't know. Um, and a part of me was worried if I could function or if that would last like forever because I just don't know. It did pass, but yeah, I remember it was kind of strange. It was like this doesn't feel like it does kind of feel clear, but like yeah, just not in the way that the person would want or think.
yeah, that's actually rings true. And I think I've, I'm whatever, however many years older than you. So there's like aging and, just fucking decades of pounding, just pushing, pushing, and pushing. So there is a lot of just fatigue in the body. This last month, with Gigi being here, it's been lovely, and it's also more to do. So I'm just like, sometimes like, oh fuck, you know,
Yeah, that makes
like,
sense.
and it's not like I would want to say, just get out of here, but it's like,
It's an
wow,
adjustment. Yeah.
just need to rest. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I felt when my mom came back because I was living alone largely. And then another person was in my space and there was very little uh separation from that. And you could feel everything. You could feel there's more movement, more stuff to do, more activity,
yeah,
and yeah, the body's very slow to acclimate to like a different person in your environment.
yeah. I could feel for the first few weeks, it's like there was more like the description that I felt was more water in the river. It's just like there was more flow, there was more, my little trickle that where I could see every rock and there wasn't that much water in it. And then all of a sudden there all this more water and it was like in a way it felt more alive. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And in a way it started washing up more stuff. It's like, holy fuck,
Hmm.
see where I had gotten comfortable with that little trickle. It's like,
Mm.
okay, now I rest, and I do this, and nobody bothers me, and I don't have any kids, and, you know,
Yeah, nice.
and it was, so it's just sort of like, none of it feels like a problem, but it does feel like there's a need for more just rest.
Hmm. Yeah. You'll notice in intricate detail, just the environment change or any kind of change that happens with the body is just very, very uh, intricately felt now, in depth.
Yeah,
Yeah, because for me too, everything changed when my mom came. My eating patterns, um, I went to the grocery store with her more often and I walked with her more often and everything changed.
yeah. What I can, there's been a little challenging because, she's coming here from a whole other culture. She's, she there's a lot of things she can't do. So she's, practically is dependent on me, but she's she's strong, she's independent, she's, and she knows she needs to do what she needs to do to get on her own feet. So, some of the old, I had somewhat similar version of, I don't know how similar it is to yours, but with my mother kind of taking care of her and you know, repressing myself to so she wouldn't feel her own whatever. So there is that blueprint in my system for relating to somebody. I'll just take care of somebody and put myself second, or you know, but that doesn't get very far.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah. There, when I went on vacation with my mom, prior to that, she was telling me like she gets really restless at home, just staying at home. So she needs to go somewhere. And so there was the idea of like, I want this to be a good vacation for her, but the reality is that this body can only do so much. It can't sustain that idea and act a certain way because of it. Um, and yeah, it disappeared quite quickly, but all that's obvious is just what the body can handle. It's just quite clear.
Yeah,
Yeah. You don't need to do more for Gigi or show her a good time or make sure she's comfortable.
yeah, just feeling some remnants of something, just like some version of there's something more than this, something clearer than this, something whatever, it's like a whole patterning in my system. And I play that out. It's like, okay, I'm talking to Suzanne. Is there something that I need to get here or something?
Well, everything's like kind of fine detail now. So you just expressing what you did and what you're going through, it's just good context to have an understanding of why the body is tired. And of course, it would want more rest. And that, yeah, it's a transition time where there's a lot of different factors in your life right now. And it will settle, but it's a lot for the body.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see just how like what I was describing as more water in the river. It's just like, it's shown me more of my rigid places. It's like, oh, I see that, it's like, okay, cool. There's water pounding up against that, you know, bedrock or whatever. It's like, oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, good, bad. It's like, oh, I see. Wow.
Yeah. Like one example was when I eat by myself, and especially when this happens, it's like you get more in tune with the body, or the body tells you. It's less about you telling the body what it needs. So it would just eat how much it wanted to and just stop. Or it would eat when it wanted to and that's it. But with my mom, she's more on a schedule and and she would expect me to eat more because it's like it's lunchtime. That's all you're going to eat. But I would tell her like I'm not eating with here. I'm eating here, like my body's telling me when to stop and I cannot force it to eat more. And yeah, in the beginning it was a little bit triggering, like someone telling me how much to eat. It just reminded me of the past of that's why I was so out of tune with the body because of this kind of conditioning. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But over time, I would say like my mom has changed a little bit. She doesn't need to force the body to eat more just because it's lunchtime.
Yeah. I can feel the fatigue and a kind of softening, you know, just your level of acceptance just always allows a deeper softening.
Mm,
Things I always appreciate. Just
yeah. And I like what you said about how there's been a lot of pounding and going and getting and changing. And so, yeah, the body's going to feel very tired. I'm honestly right now, I'm not sure if it's because of that. I'm sure that played some sort of role, but the body itself, when it's kind of reversing back to its natural state, it will feel more tired and fatigued, and it'll act very slow and do things a lot more slowly. And to me now, I just see it as natural, that it's just nice, that it's kind of like a turtle, just like really slow.
yeah, yeah. I've always been a little bit that way, but it's like definitely slows down. And it's just there's so much less judgments about, oh, I should be, it's like reading is better than watching TV, or you know
Yeah.
walking is better than sitting, or
Mm,
whatever, all the little you know
beautiful.
judgments of you know watching a spiritual video or is better than checking the score of a basketball game or whatever, just all those. And it's just like, who the fuck cares? It's like,
Exactly. It's all nonsense. Yeah.
who the fuck cares?
That's
There's
beautiful.
all these overlays. It's just like,
Yeah, all of it's made up. Such nonsense.
yeah. And being in a social service workplace as you're realizing this is really bizarre, because you just see how insane things are. It's like it's so insane what people are doing. People have these ideas of, like it somehow matters in the work we're doing whether we're using the right pronouns. It's just like it makes any difference at all whether we call people homeless or unhoused. It's just
Oh,
it's like, oh my God, it's just lunacy.
ridiculous. Yeah.
It's just, but people fuck, you can lose your job if you don't, you know, use the right pronouns. It's just, or just be shunned, because that's the, that's the people don't see. It's like, the progressive people hate the MAGA people, and the MAGA people hate the progressive people. And I'm just looking at them, you both fucking crazy, It's just like,
Exactly.
you know,
All of it's crazy. Yeah.
just insanity.
And all of it doesn't matter. You're like you're trying to just turn the lowercase I into a capital I and you think it's a big deal and it's like it's the same.
It's so comical. It's so comical. We, I mean, there's some people that I work with that I really love to work with, and it's just, it's kind of cool to help people who are just right on the edge, and to see them. It's okay. It's not. I don't. I don't feel like it's changing the world, but it's kind of heartful in a way. And it's interesting. I don't know if I get hooked or what it's like, but I've spoken 3 times publicly. I got asked to speak at these 3 conferences, 3 different conferences. And, people are just, they're talking in ways that are so crushingly dull. It's just like so dull. People talking all day long and then discussing what people talk about and discussing responses to questionnaires, and it's just like,
Oh my
oh,
God, kill me
fuck,
now.
dead. And I just talk. I don't prepare anything. I just talk about my experience. I talk about, you know, um, I came up with this analogy just sort of spontaneously. I said, it's like we don't have communities anymore. So we've replaced communities with these systems of care that are professionalized, and it's like, I was saying, it's like you give somebody a box of cold cereal, and that's one agency's job. Okay, here's your box of cold cereal. Now, if you want milk, you have to go to a different agency or organization, and it's going to take 2 weeks to get an appointment. And then they're going to ask you to fill out a bunch of questionnaires. And if you're an ex-con, to take a urine test and, fill stuff out so you can get a fucking bottle of milk, you know. And then if you
That's
want
nice.
spoons, it's just it's insane, you know. It's like, and people are wondering why it doesn't work.
Beautiful. Yeah,
So we do as we try. It's not magic, but you build a relationship with somebody, you find out what they need, and you do your best to help them in the context of you know, a connection where people actually care about somebody.
yeah, it's just genuine and real and
And if it helps, it helps. And if somebody's a dick with me, I just say, I'm not doing this. It's like,
exactly.
God bless you, good luck to you, but and I've been down that road. I already know where it goes. I don't need to go there again.
Nice.
And you'll find out. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel responsible. It's just, I mean, there's little threads of it here and there, but it's just like,
Yeah, that sounds really healthy.
so I don't know if I'll keep doing it or not. I don't know. But it's been kind of interesting to see. You can tell as soon as somebody's talking real, the room's sort of like, wow, that's a person. You know, and I'm talking about my experience and talking about, you know, telling stories about real things that have happened and not sort of analyzing data or, you know, as you said, just trying to the mind trying to figure out how to micromanage something that's never going to change, And people respond. They're sort of like, huh, well, that's interesting. Doesn't, I don't feel, it's like I used to be a performer. I used to be kind of hooked into that world. I don't care anymore. I don't, but
That's
it's
good
sort of
to
like,
hear.
that's interesting.
Yeah. That is the fakeness of the person. It is a performer. It's acting, you know?
Oh
And
God,
yeah.
when I look at things that I did, it's like, oh, what a fucking clown. It's just like it was like a, it was like a high school play. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had my personal persona, and then I had a persona on top of the persona. A stage persona is like, holy shit,
Yeah,
layer on layer.
that's well described. That's how everyone's living. It's crazy. It's
No,
insanity.
no
Like
thing.
where is the realness in that? It's all pretend.
Yeah, it's like, there are a few videos of things that I did, and thankfully not a lot, but I go back and look at them and it's like, oh my God. Okay, that's what it was, but like, do I miss that? Thank God that dude is dead. You know,
Yeah.
oh Lord.
Yeah, it's nice to look back or think back of like, holy shit, how much of a person was actually there?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you get such a different perspective on that stuff. Um, I guess it's going to be different for everyone, but sometimes I think back of things that I thought were healthy for me, like going to India and resting, and I did rest a lot. And I was smart enough to not believe the Buddhist texts of like, you gotta go through all of these stages. I was like, fuck that. That's stupid. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, this idea of like I'll have the answer in India was kind of ingrained somewhere that it's a special spiritual place. And but it did harm to the body too. Like the food wasn't right for my body. I had so much digestive issues that I still have to deal with now because it impacted the body. And
wow.
it's just strange to look at that kind of stuff, like what you put your body through because you have this idea.
Yeah. At least you didn't go to prison, girl.
Yeah, but when you think about it now, it's like is prison that different from anything else? Like all of this is kind of a prison.
Yeah.
School
Well,
is a
prison
prison.
prison was easier than most things, you know.
Mm,
I was just talking to one of my colleagues about it because he was writing, but he's working on a training about helping people prepare, for life after prison. And I was just like, nobody talks about it because people don't want to admit it. But prison is easier than real life, you know,
that makes
because
a lot of sense to me because you're fed, you don't have to make money.
yeah, they can't kick you out, they can't fire you, they can punish you, they can make, you know,
Yeah.
it's like even if you don't, they can't, they have to, they're legally required to feed you. If your toilet doesn't flush, they have to come fix it. All these things, it's easy. I realized that really, oh, fuck, this is so much easier than what I was doing. You know, nobody gives a shit about what I do in here. I'm not anybody special. I don't have to be. I'm just a
Mm,
fucking convict and nobody's going to bother me. It was great.
that's awesome. Yeah. You weren't scared that there were other convicts around and that they were.
It's way overdone, that sort of I talked with a lot of, because I was in a medium security prison, and mediums, I wasn't supposed to be, but that's just how prison works. They do whatever the fuck they want to do. So, and it ended up being much more interesting because if you're in a minimum security, it's all, it's like rich people who committed a crime, basically. So I
Mm,
was in a medium security prison, and you can go if you're in a maximum and you do well for like 10 years, you can work your way down to a medium where you have more freedoms and more privileges. So I was with guys who'd been in max and even supermax prison. And I never heard any of them, all this sexual stuff and rape and violence. And, they said it's just not a thing. It happens probably about as much as it happens in the outside world, but it's like, these I was with this one guy who's in prison for 27 years. He said, I never got threatened or raped or, you know, any of that stuff. I never saw it. So it's a lot of the stuff is way overblown for
mm,
drama, you know.
mm. It's good to know.
Yeah.
I've been interested in in the Mendes brothers. Did you hear about them?
Yeah, I remember that. The
Yeah.
Menendez, they killed their parents once.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was watching a documentary and one of the brothers was saying how he maybe only survived prison because he was able to completely dive into art and forget about everything else, you know? But it kind of reminded me of what I did in the Buddhist monastery. Like I needed to still escape myself or life, and I completely dove myself into art. And it just made me see how that Buddhist monastery I was staying at and the prison is exactly the same, you know?
Yeah.
It's just
Absolutely.
like, and I was doing the same thing he's doing, you know? Desperate
Yeah.
to escape myself or whatever it is.
It's true. It's exactly right. I mean, I thought of it as, it's like, okay, this is a monastery. I can do this, no problem. You know, you know. We used to get locked in our cells, when like staff would have a meeting or a, a Christmas party or something, and so they wanted to have everybody under control, so they'd lock us in our cells for the afternoon. I was like, you take a nap, as one of my we always kind of look forward to it. It's like that's um, one of the guys I was in with said, "Don't threaten me with a good time," like lock me in myself or can't go out or just take a nap or read or whatever, no problem. So
Yeah.
there's one question that comes up just about this, what I was calling the rubble or whatever is like, does it get clearer? Or is this just, is that still part of me that's looking beyond, looking for something other than this?
Um, in a way, it's okay if it doesn't get clear. Well, okay. So to be honest, I don't know. All I can reflect back to you is what happened here and that it just continued to get clear. Um,
Yeah.
the main refinement was that the energy was exhausting itself in so many different ways, and I could not play into much at all anymore. And that's just how it leaves the system. And then you see the external world more clearly, and then more is processed, and then more leaves, and then you see it more clearly, and then like it's very subtle. It just keeps doing that. And over apparent time, it's obvious like something is clearing out. I can sense it overall. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I remember there were periods where it was just hazy and it wasn't clear. It didn't feel clear, but that was it still. It didn't need to change. It doesn't mean that it's actually that anything's actually wrong. The body's adjusting a lot as well, so it will physically change how the body functions and perceives things, and sometimes it can't do much, sometimes it has the energy to do a lot. It's always a surprise. It's like, okay, and then you just go with it, because that's all you can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, it's a flip in that the body is completely leading now. You have no say. The body has all the say.
Hmm. Can feel the quiet in that. Thank you so much. It's lovely to see you. I think we're almost at time.
Mm. Yeah, it's really nice to see you too. Yeah, I'm sure Gigi coming is gonna bring up a lot. It's gonna challenge a lot in the body, even in subtle ways, like you said, your schedule or where you've been like a little bit stuck. And it's not you, it's just energetically, it's become a little bit of a pattern, which is completely fine. Has nothing to do with you. That's just how the body functions. And then now it's challenged to deconstruct some of that or see that it doesn't need it. And if there's like
Yeah,
subtle safety and security that was gained from that, you could also, yeah, it kind of comes up as well. And
right.
yeah, but yeah, it's all
Yeah.
energy. It's all beautiful.
I can see where rest for me was a control. Okay, if I get enough rest, I'll be able to stay on top of it. It's like, it's just everybody has their different ways of getting by. That's been one of mine. So it's like, oh, okay, I see. That's
Oh,
another
nice.
another layer.